what was reported by Al Jazeera. The Turkish President Erdogan said that the Mecca agreement sent an important message to the world. The Mecca agreement stipulates that the signatory countries take take unified action if any of them is subjected to external aggression. I have a question here, but let me read the rest of it. The
Sure.
agreement allows other countries to join in the future, other countries to join in the future, and Egypt's participation is possible. So the first part, it says basically says an attack on one is an attack on all of them. That doesn't apply to Yemen.
Correct. Yemen. And does it apply to Iran? I don't think so. Does it apply to Russia? Probably not. I mean, this is a meaningless agreement. That's what it is. It is. It's theater. I don't see really anything of substance from it, uh, other than now Turkey's got they've got a relationship on paper with Pakistan, who has nuclear weapons. So you can say, hey, I got a friend who's connected. He got some nukes, so don't mess with me. Maybe that's their attitude now. I mean, there's no denying that the Turks have an effective army, quite capable army of defending Turkey, but they don't really, they're not good at projecting force, sending Turkish soldiers overseas, or the same with Pakistanis. We saw that. It's been over 30 years, but with the whole Black Hawk Down incident in Somalia, they were waiting for Pakistani troops to roll out, and they turned to be virtually useless back then too.
In the second part, he says the agreement allows other countries to join in the future, and the Egypt's participation is possible. There are two important countries to join, in my opinion, to this pact, this military pact. One of them is Egypt, and the other one is Iran.
Right. Right.
How do you see that possibility? Is that going to make the pact, the defense pact, meaningful, and how big that would be?
Well, it's still not clear. Um, this is like trying to put together a building, but it's not like you're working with Lego parts that are different colors. These are a combination of, some are Lego, some are conventional wooden blocks, some are plastic puzzle pieces. They don't naturally fit together at all, apart from the fact that they all profess a belief in Islam. They're candidly, they're years away from ever being able to do anything together in terms of joint operations. They have different standard training standards. You got different equipment. Not even sure they've tried to consolidate and use any of the same communications equipment. So how would they talk to each other and coordinate? Yeah, this is, like I said, this is more theater, circus, as opposed to being something that really represents a new form of regional security for the Persian Gulf. I know that's what they'd like, but they're years away from that.
Yeah. The reaction from Antony Blinken is so interesting. And what he reacted, let me bring his X account here. He says that when America becomes unreliable, our allies and partners don't stand still. They adapt, they hedge, they look elsewhere, and the consequences to American people are serious. I have been warning about this for over a year. And this piece by Fareed Zakaria, he's mentioning the new article of Fareed Zakaria on, you know, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, on Washington Post. It says the Iran war is a masterclass of squandering. Yeah, is a
Squandering.
masterclass. Is no, I'm just the Washington Post doesn't let me to read because everything is gonna come out, and I'm not subscribed to their yeah, to their website. Yeah, the Iran war is a masterclass in squandering a superpowers. It doesn't let me to read the rest of it. I don't know what's going on with the website, you know. And
Oh,
this is the piece of Fareed Zakaria. He's basically talking about how Donald Trump is destroying legitimacy of the United States dominance in the West Asia by this war in this article.
mhm.
And it seems that in the eyes of people like Anthony Blinken, it's a serious issue right now. These countries coming together. On one side, we say this is not that big, but in the eyes of the establishment, I see Anthony Blinken as one of the most important members of the establishment. And when he talks this way, it means something. Let me
It's-
just. Did you find it?
I'm looking for it for you right now. Oh, there he is. The Iran war is a masterclass in squandering a superpower's credibility.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here.
You know the guy who wrote this article. He's the
Yeah, Fareed Zakaria. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
He's American, if I'm not mistaken, Pakistani. He's from Pakistani origin.
yeah. So again, he's saying, oh, they've squandered. Uh, yeah, the U.S. has squandered its credibility, absolutely. But these countries together, I mean, Turkey can't figure out what it is. I mean, Turkey as a country under the leadership of Erdogan reminds me of some guy that thinks he's a woman and yet is not really sure he wants to be a woman, but thinks he's a woman. Very confused. You know, on the one hand, they claim to be, oh, we're against Zionism. Okay. Then on the other hand, we're selling all the oil to facilitate the Zionist genocide of the Palestinians. Then he, on the one hand, claims he wants to be friends with Russia. Then he partners up with the United States to sell more weapons to Ukraine, a direct challenge to Russia, and makes threats against Russia in the Black Sea. You got to look at it and say, what the hell are you doing? You know, like pick a side, pick one side, stay there and see if you can build some credibility there. Erdogan has zero credibility.
He said that he's going to go to Syria because the case of Syria is so important for them, and he tries to do everything to support its stability. And how serious, Larry, is the case of Syria for Turkey? Is that the same case as in Lebanon? Because whenever they were talking before the war somehow escalating, he said that if Israel attacks Hezbollah, they're going to help Hezbollah. They didn't do anything. I'm talking about Turkey. Turkey didn't do anything. And right now they're talking about Syria. Syria is somehow different. How different is that in your eyes when it comes? He talks so tough about we're gonna help them. We're gonna help the government there to defend itself.
Yeah, he's like I said, he talks a good game, but when it comes to acting, he's got really limited power, or he doesn't always follow through on what it claims that he's going to do. So I'm just Turkey played. Apparently they worked with Israel and the United States to oust both Hafez, Bashar al-Assad, and then at the same time allow Ashar to come to power. But then after that, they split. So Turkey's preoccupation had been the Kurds and the Kurdish Workers' Party, and so they may have that contained, but it's just, they don't really have significant control over Syria like they think they do, and they'd be there battling potentially Israel and the United States. Of course, the United States supposedly is pulling out, so who knows?
Does it mean that they're going to leave the Kurdish people alone? And
Oh no, heavens no! You kidding? They'll never leave the Kurds alone.
that's the case for Turkey, because Turkey is majorly concerned about the Kurdish people in Syria.
Right.
So,
Well, that's what they say, but they do have a significant Turkish presence within Turkey. I mean, Kurdish presence in Turkey. So
yeah. But within Turkey is different from outside Turkey, that they can destabilize the situation inside Turkey. It's the same for Iran, because I totally understand that Turkey, you have the same concerns as Iran has with the Kurdish people on their borders outside of the country on the Iraqi side.
Right.
I
And then you would think, with that being the case, they would form an alliance with Iran and work with Iran to contain the Kurdish threat. I don't think they've really done that to any degree, maybe to a limited extent.
Here is, Larry, what was reported on Washington Post. Donald Trump, he says that the U.S. Navy is considering major changes to future Ford-class aircraft carrier to better match President Trump's preference for a World War II era appearance, including moving the ship's command island farther forward. He's talking what is happening here from the point of view of engineering, in engineering point of view, is that he's asking this old, he's talking about replacing the Ford classes electromagnetic aircraft, launch system with older steam powered, what is this? Because it's unbelievable. He wants to replace the electromagnetic system with the old one.
Well, why do you say it's unbelievable?
Because the old one doesn't, the new one, everybody would know that, who knows a little bit about engineering, who knows that electromagnetic is much more efficient and better, and then the steam-powered sort of system that he wants to.
On paper, maybe, but in reality, apparently it hasn't worked. There have been complaints from the people on the decks of the aircraft carrier with the new electromagnetic systems that they don't work. Now, the problem Trump has, he thinks just by writing, out an order, canceling the electromagnetic and saying, okay, go back to the old steam system, is that the ships that are being built were specifically designed to handle the electromagnetic. And it's not just you can't just play. It's not plug and play. Then you pull one out and you plug the other one in, and same thing. No, it is. It's a real problem. That essentially the ships will have to be redesigned, which then adds, billions of dollars literally to the development. So from that standpoint, what he's doing is crazy. He's just further delaying the modernization of the U.S. Navy. And look, frankly, they're focused upon building a system that really is no longer relevant. It's like, this would be like the U.S. Army in 1936 trying to come up with a better saddle for cavalry horses. And you're going, the way the wars are being fought now, we don't need cavalry horses. Back in the 1940s, we need tanks, armored vehicles. And right now, the last thing they need is another aircraft carrier that you have to find 5,000 people to go on board, and you can't keep it supplied.
Did you see the new photos of the food on Abraham Lincoln?
No, like I told you, I've been tied up teaching all day.
Yeah.
Did it look appetizing? They make your mouth water. I think
they have to send those photos to Pete Hegseth.
or is it part of a new diet plan? That the diet plan is you have to look at pictures like this for a half hour, and then you'll lose all desire to eat. That's how you lose weight.
Yeah, the report came out is the main problem with Abraham Lincoln. It says it's because of the Iranian attacks on Bahrain and Kuwait and Oman, because they have destroyed all those infrastructure in these countries who were supposed to help to support the aircraft carriers. And this was mentioned as one of the major issues by New York Times in their latest report, because they were supposed, before they were using Oman and Bahrain and these countries in the Persian Gulf, to resupply but right now that's not the option, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And I don't know what would be how do you see the situation with the new one going to the region?
Well, it's going to be about more of the same. What's shocking is Trump's comments. They don't need to come home. They need to stay longer. What a buffoon. I mean, I honestly, I hate to admit that I thought Trump was something different, and I voted for him. I'd never vote for the man again. The only vote I'd give would be to impeach him, have him prosecuted and tossed from office. He's a disgrace. And, I know a lot of former Trump supporters that feel the same way. He has really, really killed himself on this. And it's, look, the mothers of the sailors, I'm having, a number of different, I've had 3 so far on email and 4th in person. So, and I'm connecting them, and they're starting to get together. They may start posting a website and start, become a gathering place for angry parents, because their kids are not being properly cared for, and the supply situation is screwed up. That makes sense that they were counting upon using Bahrain as a staging base to get the ships in and out. They can't even sell a U.S. Navy ship into the strait without fear of it getting destroyed.
There was a report on Washington Post. It says that the frustration with Washington is growing among U.S. allies in the region, in the Persian Gulf. They're basically talking about Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, or it says all united in their frustration after months of Iranian and proxy missiles and drones attacks. And they're debating the value of continuing to host major U.S. military installations. I think this is the fight. This is one of the major issues for Donald Trump, to convince these countries, at least because they're paying for everything, to my understanding, for these bases. I heard it from the former defense minister of Qatar. He said when they built the air base in Qatar, it wasn't supposed to be that big. He said that later on during the construction, we've learned that it's so big. We said, what is that? And then, they accepted.
Yeah.
Right now they're questioning that.
Well, I'd like to question it. The Al Udeid's there now. it can't be really inhabited to any degree because it's very vulnerable to attack because the air defense systems don't work. And I think that may be the biggest beef for several of these countries, recognizing that they thought the air defense systems would protect them, and they don't.
Their problem is they're totally, Larry, dependent on the United States when it comes to the weapons, intelligence, security, everything. And how is that going to be? I see. Do you see any sort of capabilities in these countries to replace those issues if they decide to not continue the cooperation or reduce the cooperation between them and the United States?
Well, it's already reduced. I mean, it's not a matter of a formal decision. The Iranian attacks have effectively caused a complete realignment of the relationships. One, it's forced U.S. troops from the area. Two, U.S. systems, radar systems, communication systems that were in place, their defense systems that were supposed to work in concert to protect them have turned out to be targets themselves, and they've been destroyed. So, it's now it's a matter for the United States to actually negotiate. Hey, can we stay? Can we come back? And even there, it's unclear that the United States is willing to go back in the same way that it was there previously. In fact, that's not going to happen. In Bahrain and Qatar in particular, U.S. is not going. The U.S., for example, at Al Udeid, they had the AFCENT, the Combined Air Operations Center, located in Al Udeid. They're not sending that back there anytime soon.